Tuesday, and I will be allowing guests to come live on screen with me again if anyone wants to do so. You don't have to show your face if you don't want. You can wear a mask or you can just stay within the shadows, so to speak, but you must be appropriately dressed. Um, I will be putting the link in the chat room shortly, or one of my moderators will. I hope if they see it. Um, if not, I'll make that adjustment. A little under the weather because I've been taking a muscle relaxer for an injury from last week. So if I seem a little drowsy, that's why. I'm not high, and I'm not trying to have any slurred speech. I hope, but a little drowsy, a little bit. So um, until people come in here, I will hold down the fort and just talk at lib. Uh, I need to figure out a better way to put the live stream link in the mobile live stream without needing the moderator to do so. I might be able to do it through my cloud bot. Let me see. The only problem is I do my cloud bot from my desktop, whereas I post a link through my mobile live stream. So I'll have to figure that one out. And I could just make it something that automatically connects to the cloud bot moderator, but the link I think is different each time, so I have to change the cloud bot message each time to do so. But as I see people coming into the live stream, hello to everyone in the live stream. This is a Ask Me Anything format, so guys, feel free to ask me questions. Um, as as long as they're family friendly questions, they have to be family friendly, um, and no like relationship or legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, not paid as one, never took the bar, so I can't give you any legal advice. Relationship advice, I will do, but you're gonna have to drop a super chat if it's like relationship advice. Everything else is welcome. Any other questions are welcome as long as they are family friendly. Okay. Family friendly questions only. Um, and that can be about sports or movies or whatever. Um, see something here. Yeah, I need to figure out how to put my live stream link. Again, guys, for people coming in, I'm inviting people to come on camera with me if they're interested. Uh, you just have to be appropriately dressed. That's all. And if you're shy about being on camera, you can wear a mask or you can um, stay within like a shadowy silhouette if you choose to do it that way, or you can disguise your voice. That doesn't matter to me if you want to disguise your voice or wear a mask or anything. I just ask, you be appropriately dressed if you want to come onto the live stream with me and talk. We can talk about any sort of conversations. It doesn't matter as long as it's family friendly. Family friendly, um, no harsh language. or adult or adult type content. Okay. What's up, Carlton? Uh, I wish I could send you the link. I was gonna because I needed someone to come in and share the go live link with me. I mean, with the chat room, because I can't when I go live, it doesn't allow me to do that. Like it gives me a link to copy and to share, but it doesn't let me share it to the chat room, which would be very convenient if they let me do that. If I could just share it with the chat room so it opens up and then I pin and then that messages something I can pin. Let me see. It could be another way. Uh, nope, guess not. I'm waiting for Kick the Theatrics, aka Moonlit Fern, to come in and see if he can do it. I don't know where he is, but guys, feel free to ask me questions as long as they're family friendly. You know, family friendly questions are welcome, which means advertiser friendly. But yeah, feel free to ask me whatever you like. Again, just don't ask me, you know, legal questions because you need to get those answered by an actual lawyer. Um, and relationship advice, I'll only do if I'm get receiving a super chat for it. Because I've been burned a couple of times where I've given like really detailed advice to someone without any sort of like um, compensation for it. So I no longer do the relationship advice for free. But anything else is up for grabs. Okay. I mean, there's a lot going on in the news, so we can talk about that. Like the World Economic Forum, the Trump was at, and he was attacked, not physically attacked, but verbally attacked by the European leaders. Did I work out today? Yep, I did. Even though I've been injured, which is why I'm a little drowsy right now, because I took a muscle relaxer. Um, I'm on. They had me on some Motrin muscle relaxer and and a steroid because I injured myself last week, and I really didn't talk too much about it. Um, Even people in my family didn't realize I was injured until I mentioned going to urgent care because I tried to book a physical through my health insurance, and the place where I go had no available appointments until April. I'm like, till April? Oh hell no! It's like I can barely walk. But yeah, I still got up early to work out. Um, both do 6306 says, can you talk about the World Economic Forum with your shirt off? I don't know. Faggots can kiss my ass. And yeah, I said it. We're not gonna that's gonna be my first and last clap back for the day dealing with retards and autistic people and little um in the closet for nukes. Go pillow bite somewhere else. You're not welcome on this channel. And by the way, I don't care what your what your sexual orientation is, but keep it off. You're gonna keep it off here. Like I said, I'm only dealing with family friendly questions are the ones that I will answer. Um, if you come here with with the shits, you will get clowned. You will get rightly clowned. Yeah, I know Fanuc is an Italian word. I use it because the because it's not censored. YouTube doesn't censor Fanuc, so I'll just keep calling all these pillow biters Fanucs. Carlos says, "Do you think Trump will renege on the Greenland and EU promise?" So the thing is, so people always think he's like dumb or whatever. He he doesn't show all his cards. The reason why he plays a similar game to like 50 Cent, I think, where he's very abrupt in the public. Meanwhile, there are negotiations going on in the background. And I think whether we end up taking Greenland or not, the fact of the matter is that our administration wants a better deal with Greenland because we have several military installations in Greenland. Um, but from what I hear, they they're um they're woefully need in repair, and with both China and Russia trying to spread their hegemony into the onto outside of the pond, um, the president is looking to you know I guess push back on how emboldened they feel to for them to spread their hegemony into places like Latin America and possibly into the northern part of North America in the Arctic by Greenland because like Green is owned by Denmark, but Denmark can't, as Donald Trump and others have pointed out, Denmark cannot protect Greenland if, like I said, um, a bad actor like Russia or China wanted to come in and spread the hegemony. Like the Arctic is a strategic part of our national security, which is again why we had struck an agreement with Denmark a long time ago to have our military installations there. On top of that, Denmark relies on our military installations there to protect it because they don't. Denmark can't protect it itself, and it kind of goes to thinking, well, if we're responsible for the protection of Greenland, why don't we just make it ours? Now, I mean, plus there are um, some natural resources in Greenland that we would desire as well. Let's be honest. They have resources that we would want. Of course, I think their main resource is just a bunch of white people that Trump would like to make American citizens, honestly. But what I will say is what we see going on camera um, probably doesn't reflect the negotiations going on in the back between the vested parties like the US and Denmark and Greenland. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think he is pretty genuine about it. I'm not sure if he's gonna renege. Um the the other issue is NATO because Greenland is a NATO country and they were saying, well, if he occupies Greenland, that kind of uh d- d- nullifies our partnership with NATO. I don't know how that works honestly because I'm not gonna I'm not gonna talk above my pay grade here and act as if I know. I don't think most of us know anything, even though you have talking heads on the left and the right acting as if they know what's going on. Really, the only people that know what's going on are the actual parties involved. but I do think he genuinely wants Greenland in some capacity, whether it's just an increased military presence, uh, as a U.S. territory, um, or something of the nature. I do believe that he's serious about that. I don't think he's just like trolling. Now with Canada, he was clearly trolling, although it was because he wanted a better economic partnership with Canada. I understand that, but I don't think he was ever serious about making Canada the 51st state. I think he was just trolling the Canadian government on that one. Although I'm pretty sure he might take a chunk of it as territory if they had offered it. I think he would have accepted. But I definitely think he's serious about Greenland. Like I said, it's under the Kingdom of Denmark, but again, Denmark doesn't really have the force to protect Greenland. Um, if and when there is a foreign invader there, so it seems better if America already had its clutches on it. I don't know, to be honest. I'm just waiting to see how this plays out over the year, just like everyone else. Oh, he said Greenland has a lot of uranium there. Oh well, that's important because we know what uranium is used for, to go back in time. I'm joking. Carter says, "Yep, I don't think he'll stop until he gets Greenland." Yeah, like I said, who's gonna stop him? Like, and the thing is, it's better us preemptively keep Greenland within the the American sphere of influence than let it fall to, say, Russia or China. And the reason being is like we already seen that Russia has been trying its hand. Like they have all these little secret boats going from the Baltic Sea all the way to the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America, if you will, secretly, doing surveillance and other, intelligence gathering and working with foreign governments, dictatorial governments in Latin America. Uh, and because these are secret um, submarine vessels, they don't carry a flag. So we've been quietly sending the Navy and the Coast Guard to apprehend these submarines, um, and capture them. And Russia can't do anything because they aren't declaring themselves. Because when you're in international waters, you declare yourself. I remember when my friend was in the Navy, his first MOS, he had changed it. His first MOS in the Navy was every time there was a ship approaching, they had to raise their flags or whatever. So this is something that is common practice in maritime combat, and just not necessarily, well, sorry, not necessarily maritime combat, but in maritime affairs. Like, um, ships are supposed to announce to each other their their nation's, um, their national allegiance or whatever. And these secret submarines weren't doing that, so the U.S. has been capturing them, and Russia was mad, calling this piracy, but they're not going to do anything about it because they know that these boats were, uh, or sorry, submarines rather, were doing this in bad faith. So, already shows that Russia does have a vested interest in trying to put their hooks into the Western Hemisphere. Um, parti- Not to mention they were also trying to, that's another thing why we was hard with the Panama Canal, because we saw they in China are trying to use the Panama Canal as well to get, you know, to travel across the Americas. So that's harder for them to do now. So we'll see. But yeah, I think he does. I think he does genuinely want Greenland. And people are just were trying to say that he's just doing it out of spite because he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, sure. I guess. I mean, sure. I guess he could be petty about that, but that's he's been saying this well before the whole nomination for a Nobel Peace Prize. UT Eclipse says, "What are your thoughts on the Islamic replacement theory in the U.S. or will it soon be a dominant Islam state?" Are you from the United States? I'm not. There's no Islamic replacement theory that I'm aware of in the U.S. That's more in Europe. We don't have enough Muslims here to make those demands. Um, I'm pretty yeah. If you, I mean, and you're probably young because if you remember the Bush era administration, we were kicking them out the country left and right and sending suspected terrorists to Guantanamo Bay and to other black site locations. Um, yeah, we're not worried about an Islamic replacement here in the United States. That's going on in the EU, where, like I said, now the time when you think of a Frenchman, if you think of someone from France, probably thinking of a Arab Muslim, and some of the other Western European countries. I mean, outside of people like um, Zoran Mandani becoming this mayor of New York City, most of Middle America is quite white and quite Christian. That's the only place you see a handful of Muslims are in blue are in blue cities. Most of the most of middle America is white. Romulus says, "Do you support the ICE shooting?" Yes, I do. Um, I've already talked about this before in a previous live stream and on some of my YouTube shorts. People forget that ICE is a law enforcement agency. It doesn't matter whether you like them, and it doesn't matter whether you don't like what they're doing. To You still have to respect the fact that they're law enforcement and comply. This is something Black people have known about police all the time during the era where people always talked about police brutality and all sorts of stuff. Compliance. You don't have to like the police and you don't have to agree with what they're doing. You still have to comply with the law. No other ICE is like one of the few only law enforcement agencies where people can openly set up activist watch groups to follow those agents to harass them during an investigation, and do other sort of obnoxious stuff. If this happened to any other branch of law enforcement, whether you're talking about local, county, state, or federal, those people will get arrested or shot. You can't sit. You can't sit like you gonna like if a police officer asks you to stop and then you and your lesbo ass wife, your little dyke lesbo ass wife, talk about speed off, or whatever she told the bitch, and then the girl just decides to haul ass instead of complying with the law enforcement agency and hitting him and like she didn't like it's obviously she didn't intend to hit him, I would think, but she hit him nonetheless when she's tried to speed off after they were harassing the agents during an operation. Yes, you would get shot for that. Any other law enforcement, you would get shot for doing something like that. If also if you had set up, if in any other branch of law enforcement, if there was a group that was set up to to follow those law enforcement officers, to dox them and their families, come like protest in front of their homes, and harass them when they're conducting an investigation, yes, they would get arrested or get shot. And yes, it is a self-defense situation. The people gotta realize self-defense law does not have to be perfect for it to work. If you are an incredible If there is a credible threat to your life, that is self-defense. It doesn't matter what her intent was when she sped off in that fucking SUV. The fact that she could have hit him with her vehicle, or did hit him with the vehicle, poses a credible threat to that officer, justifying him shooting her. Period. It doesn't matter what your politics is about the situation. It doesn't matter whether you like ICE or whether you dislike the girl. It's not even about this, or you dislike her being lesbian, or any. All of that stuff is fluff. It comes down to self-defense law. If you're an incredible threat of your life, you can shoot someone in self-defense. Whatever her intent was in speeding off in that SUV, it was a threat to that officer's life, and he was justified in shooting. That's it. That's all. UT's Eclipse says Germany looks quite cooked right now. The industry is declining from what it used to be. How do you see its future? I don't know too much about Germany. I don't stay up. I'm about America. I don't really care about Germany too much. Too much. Like I really don't care about Western Europe pretty much at all at this point. West Most of Western Europe is shit. Which is why when I travel, I mostly travel to Asia. I've been to Germany. It's okay. But I really don't care if they are so um, if they are so determined to curtail people's um, personal freedoms over there, then I'm so happy that we have a First Amendment in our in the U.S. Constitution. I don't care about what happens in Germany, frankly. Not concerned. That is between them and the EU. And an America First policy is to say basically fuck what's going on in Europe. We they they disrespect our government and our president repeatedly when it doesn't go their way. Only when when we have weak presidents in office like Obama and Biden, that they like us. But when we have a strong president in office, they dislike us and put Americans down. But yet they expect us to always come fight their fucking fights for them. Fuck Europe. And like Trump said uh, earlier today at the World Economic Forum, if it wasn't for the US, most of Europe would be speaking German and Japanese right now. So fuck Europe. That's what I think about it. Romulo Bello says half of these people in the live streams are retarded. Facts. That is facts. UTC says, I love your reasoning, twin. Yeah, like I said, I'm not trying to be mean to Europe. Like, it's a great place to visit, and there would be a few countries I would consider living. Um, but their problems aren't our problems. And like I said, for them to be so, it's I find it ironic that they are so disrespectful of America, but they need but they depend on America's might to protect them when things don't go right in the Europe, which is all the time. Forget the two world wars broke out in Europe, and each time it was up to America to save the fucking day, right? We even sent over Native Americans during World War II as Navajo code breakers to help in the particularly, I think particularly in the Pacific Rim theater. I'm not so I'm not sure so much in the North Africa or European theaters, but yeah, our Native Americans made an indecipherable language that only they could understand using their own language. um, and Britain helped too with Alan Turing because he's a freaking genius. And then what did Britain do? And 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 then what did Britain do to reward Alan Turing for basically creating the computer, creating cognitive science, solving the problems of philosophy of mind, start doing mathematical biology, and breaking the Nazi code? They basically punished him for being gay, and he ended up unaliving himself. So yeah, that's the Europe I know. So like I said, no shade to Europeans, but fuck the EU. Full Metal Chad says nothing good happens when you run from law enforcement. Exactly. And my whole point is these are the same people who for years would say, tell black people, comply with law enforcement. That's what I'm gonna say to all these little white liberal women, all these little liberal white feminists with septum rings and blue hair. They're all fat, by the way, and lesbian, and think they can harass law enforcement officers. Like I said, any other branch of law enforcement would consider it a considerable threat that there's an actual group that goes out there to try to find these law enforcement agents while they are leading an investigation, right? Or while they're just out on patrol, and you have a group that follows them. You know how do you know how threatening that would be to a law enforcement officer that you have a group that's set up just to watch them and follow them? That sounds like a threat. That sounds like a threat. That sounds like a domestic terrorist. In any, like I said, if you took this out of the context of these being citizens who are just allegedly concerned about them apprehending illegal immigrants or harassing anyone who's non-white, which is not the case. Um, Again, they would be considered a threat to law enforcement that they can actively organize for the purposes of harassing officers during an investigation, of doxing them, which puts their families at risk, um, who who don't comply with law enforcement officers. Like, you can protest as much as you want. No one's saying they can't protest. If you have time to waste because you're rich, or your husband takes care of everything financially, so you have time to be outside all day harassing officers and protesting. You know what? Cool. You want to protest? Fine. But with excuse me, get some water. But during those protests, you do not have the right to put your hands on officers, to apprehend their investigations, to block them from buildings, stuff like that. You cannot do that. You will get arrested. Like, you can cuss out the officer or whatever, be disrespectful, but again, like I said, compliance will keep you from getting shot. And sitting there, you know, thinking you can speed off in your car when an investigating officer says you need to step out your car or whatever. Like I said, in any other context, you would get shot by a law enforcement officer. Imagine a police officer or a state trooper or any other federal agent, stopping someone in their car to question them, and then their partner tells them no, speed off, and they just shoot off in their car, you know, during this stop. yeah, the cop might shoot at you, especially if they think you might hit them with the car in the process of you speeding away from them. That's this is crazy. But the spin, like I said, both sides have been spinning out of control. Like, the right had made it like she had mowed the man over, which that wasn't the case. But she did hit, it did look like she actually hit him with a car when you look at his camera phone footage. They even reported that the man had some sort of internal bleeding. Plus, another thing that they had released was that this man was back on duty after previously being dragged by a vehicle by someone who was protesting the ice raids. He had got dragged by a vehicle prior to this incident. So he had every right to to feel to feel threatened by this woman's erratic decision to speed off in her vehicle in his direction, which could have hurt him. So bad decision making. Paul Gentile 1024 says, why are there 99s? I'm sorry, why are there a million 99-cent stores in my neighborhood and they sell the same crappy junk? Because it's a 99-cent store. That's why. They You gotta realize for 99 cents, you're not getting quality. Here's another thing about dollar stores. First of all, most dollar stores aren't even a dollar anymore. Like almost all of them are now just discount stores. But these dollar stores or dollar discount stores, whatever, um, usually, yes, the quality isn't the greatest. Or what happens is they give you they give you name brand items, but there's a lot of what do you call it, shrinkflation with these items that they sell. So people don't realize like you'll probably get a better deal just going to the supermarket to buy those same items because yes, you're paying less at the 99-cent store, but but the volume of that item is so small that it's not even worth it. Like what, for 99 cents you get like a toothpaste tube this size, right? Whereas you could get one that costs maybe $2 more at the regular supermarket that's twice that size or thrice that size. So you have to do a little bit of soup, what I want to call it. You have to do a little bit of consumer algebra, right? Um, and what I'll do, I have no shame in my game. When I go to the stores, I run it through I run it through my AI, and I'll show two items and the because most of the time I can eyeball it, but sometimes because there's so many different selections, I'll just do like screenshots, run it through my Google Gemini, and say which is the better, which is the better offer, you know, per price, and the Gemini AI app will tell me based on you know the net the net ounces or whatever and the price, like what is the better buy. So yeah, you gotta do a bit of you have to do a little bit of consumer algebra to realize what is the best for your buck. Um, and as far as them all selling the same stuff, that's because if they're all if they're all a chain, uh, like a store chain of some brand, then they're probably being supplied with by the same suppliers for all those stores. If they're a chain of they're a chain of one company, like Dollar Tree or whatever. Even though, like I said, Dollar Tree isn't a dollar anymore, but I'm just using Dollar Tree as an example. Like, say all those 99-cent stores were like Dollar Tree, right? Then pretty much they probably are all using the same suppliers, which are going to ship them the same items. So that's pretty much it. But as I said, you're looking at like I said, if you do a little consumer math here, most of the time you're probably gonna get a better deal going to the supermarket than the 99-cent store. At least nowadays. I would say 10 years ago, it was probably better. Like you probably got a better deal at least half the time at the dollar store. But now the most dollar stores aren't even a dollar anymore. Yet they're still giving you that same shrinkflation with the items. Your better bet's probably to go to the supermarket. Full says, but Trump derangement syndrome is a deadly disease. So I mean, this is what I'll say. Trump derangements, because I'm gonna put on my little, uh, I'm gonna put on my little psychology cap here for a second and say, well, Trump derangement syndrome isn't a recognized mental illness within the DSM-5, but it does point to people who do tend to have um, maybe some mental health problems going on, because it is a red flag that someone is suffering some sort of mental illness if they make politics their whole personal identity, and that's on the right and the left. Because I've definitely seen it on the right as well, where people make politics their whole personal identity. Like within the MAGA group, there are some hardcore MAGA, right, who um, even at like even after Trump won, they kept talking about it as if he was still running for election, like he still needed our support. And I'm like, bro, I voted for Trump too, but you guys are taking it too far. Like, let it go. Like, he already won the election. Let's move on and now try to ensure that he lives up to his campaign promises instead of still being all rah rah as if he's still running after he's already won back in November, you know, of 2024. Like it was still all the way into 2025 that people were still acting like we needed to support his election. I'm like, move on. He's already won. At this point, we should just be holding his feet to the fire that he fulfills his campaign promises and tries to make the country better for everyone. But on the left, yes, like I said, the Trump derangement syndrome points more to people who are definitely suffering from mental health problems, and they tend to use they I think they tend to use politics as a way as a vehicle of not so much as coping a coping mechanism, but I think I think they how do I put it? Their mental illness is expressed through through their obsession with political states of affair. I'll put it that way. And like I said, so Trump derangement syndrome generally, although it's generally not recognized as a mental health problem itself, it kind of it is kind of an indicator that the person may have some mental health problems, particularly dealing with things like um, anxiety disorders, um, affective disorders. Affective disorders refers to things like depression and bipolar, um, schizoaffective disorders, things of that nature. Um, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. People always say use OCD loosely, but that is a serious problem for people who actually have it. Um, so yeah, Trump derangement syndrome can point to someone suffering from some sort of mental health problem of that sort, like depression, anxiety, OCD, bipolar disorder, these sorts of things. This is why a lot of those people seem cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Romulo Bello says, if someone came running at you with a knife, are you going to shoot their hand? Same concept. They're saying to shoot the tires was illegally justified. Yes. Was it moral? No. So, all right. So these are three different questions. So, in a self-defense situation, you generally what you do, every state's laws on self-defense differs, but generally speaking, you can meet the level of violence acted upon you in proportion to that threat, right? So if someone tries to beat you up, you can't shoot them because that shooting them would be disproportionate to the level of threat that they pose. Now, it's different if you're like if they've knocked you on the ground and they're pummeling you, and you fear for your life at this point. Now you're justified in shooting them, and no matter what, um, whether you're justified or not, you're still going to you're still going to get arrested and go through the court process to vindicate yourself, right? Whether you have a legal concealed carry or constitutional carry, or in some states open carry. Even if you're justified in using that weapon in that situation, just know that you are still going to go through the court system to vindicate yourself. Also, that means probably if you are a gun enthusiast, your concealed carry or constitutional carry should not be your favorite weapon, because it's going to be taken for investigation after the shooting, while you're proving that your shooting was vindicated out of self defense. Keep your good keep your good weapon at home. keep and I'm not saying your concealed carry should be a trash gun. It should be something that you're well practiced on using, but it shouldn't be your favorite like item. So like for me, for instance, like being a vintage toy collector, I have pocket toys that I like to bring with me when I go out. Like like I'm still a kid, where I bring my one of my Batman toys and one of my Luke Skywalker toys with me, right? But these are just like my bargain bin um uh figures. Like they're not my quality figures. My quality figures are here at home. So I'll just take those with me, because in case I lose them or they get broken, I'm not going to be upset because I have like the ones I really like here at home. Sort of the same thing with your self defense weapon. Your self defense weapon shouldn't be like your prize item. Like if you got some vintage, you know, pistol handed that's been handed down to you through the family or whatever, don't take that as your concealed carry. Like that should be something you treasure and keep at home for your own collection. Your self defense weapon should be something just more pragmatic that you wouldn't mind not getting back in the course of an investigation where you actually had to use that gun for self defense, right? Um, oh, did Carlton did you remove that guy's message, or did it just go up? You see something? Oh, he did. Um, but I was addressing the question, but looks like Carlton had deleted it. Um, unless did he say something out of pocket? Well, anyway, I'm gonna finish addressing the question, and then I'll scroll down and see if something went awry in what he was saying later, because this is for everyone else that was probably listening to me talk about this anyway. Because, like I said, his comment was through Romulo Bello 8994. If someone came running at you with a knife, are you going to shoot their hand? Same concept. They're saying to shoot the tires. Was it legally justified? Yes. Was it moral? No. The other thing is, law enforcement are not trained to maim someone. They're trained to shoot to kill, because that's the last resort. As a last resort, you're going to pull your weapon. You're not going to pull your weapon and try to shoot their hand like this is like some John Wick movie or some John Woo film. This is not a John Woo film. This is not John Wick or James Bond or um, the Born, or one of those Jason Bourne films. Like they shoot to kill, center mass, and that's because that is a last resort. If 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 the situation doesn't call for them shooting someone, and again, a knife would be would be that, but usually that's going to happen in close quarters. So oftentimes, if someone draws a knife at you, and it's usually going to be at close quarters, you may not even have time to draw, aim, and shoot your weapon. But if so, yes, law enforcement would be legally justified in doing so. Same thing with shooting the tires. Law enforcement, again, these are movies. They're not trained to shoot people's tires out. This They're trained to shoot the person if they because every time a law enforcement personnel draws a weapon, that is a potential lawsuit against that police department and against the city or state or federal agency that is responsible for them. So they're only drawing it in the last resort. They're not going to shoot the tires out. That's ridiculous. Like those are movies. They're going to shoot to kill because that's how they're trained to do it, and because shooting is the last resort. So if you have to shoot someone as a last resort to either protect yourself or protect others, in the process, you shoot to put them down. Otherwise, you're not justified in pulling that weapon in the first place. And is it moral? Again, that depends on what your moral what moral theory you use. More like people talk about morality as if there's not like 1,000 different ethical theories out there. But if we're just going to talk about moral in a general sense of um, avoiding harm to others, it would be morally justified in the course of self-defense. Self-defense is self-defense by definition is morally justified in most, at least in most ethical theories. Self-defense is morally justified. And again, as I said, legally speaking, self-defense doesn't have to be perfect for it to be considered self-defense. If there's a credible threat of lethal of lethal violence acted upon you, you can act with self-defense proportional to that threat. Which means if the threat is a credible enough that you think that person will take your life, then you are justified in taking their life in self-defense because it's proportional to the violence being acted upon you. But you're still going to have to go to the court of law to prove that. So he said she was told to stop after impeding an arrest. She's gone. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to celebrate the woman dying though. That's just again that's macabre for me. It's just like I said. It's just like I said last year when people were celebrating Charlie Kirk's death on the political left. I said that's macabre, celebrating someone's death, whether it was justified or not. Like I said, the taking of the woman's life, like I said, to me seems legally justified because she posed a threat to that officer's life in in the reckless way that she sped off in her vehicle. Not to mention, like I said, he just came back on duty after being dragged by a vehicle previously from some sort of protester or whatever. And it's like these people, like I said, if you were any other sort of law enforcement agency dealing with people who seem mentally unglued, it, like something would be done about these people very um, sooner than later. Romero says, "Do you support the Second Amendment as well?" I do. I think the Second Amendment is what holds up the First Amendment. I don't think you can. I I think I think for and I don't see why a lot of uh, liberals and leftists don't understand this, that the First Amendment is buttressed by the Second Amendment. Kathy says, "Hey from Chicago. What's up, Kathy?" Uh, what part of Chicago do you hail from? Romulo says, "Do you think getting Maduro will hurt the U.S. in the long run?" No, it's going to help us. You got to remember, he's been wanted by both the Democratic and Republican presidential administrations for the past 10 years, if not longer. The Biden administration had a $25 million bounty on him for his capture and conviction. This was a this was a bipartisan venture. People only hate hate it because it's Trump. Guarantee you, if this happened under Obama, if Obama had captured Maduro, they would have been celebrating the shit out of it, both on the left and the right. But the left would have been celebrating like, yeah, that's our president. Just like when everyone was happy he got Osama bin Laden, which I don't really think that was actually what happened. I think they already knew where Osama, but that's a story for another day. But anyway, and I'm going from what people in special operations community has said about what actually went down, like John McPhee, who was a former Delta Force operator. But anyway, aside from that, after he had captured Osama bin Laden, took down one of the biggest lieutenants in the in Al Qaeda. I mean, one of the big then took down one of the other biggest leaders in Al Qaeda. Started the Arab Spring uprising, where they were ousting dictators all across the Northeast. I mean, North Africa and the Middle East. And then if he had captured Maduro, they would have been celebrating it. Again, the only reason people don't like it is because it's Trump. And this point goes back to what the guy was saying above about Trump derangement syndrome, where, like I said, Trump derangement syndrome isn't an actual mental illness itself, but it is an indicator that a person probably is suffering from mental health problems of some sort, like OCD or depression or anxiety disorders. They might be on the spectrum because Trump could literally do everything that that leftists want, and they will hate him for it just because he did it. Like if he decided free universal health care, um, universal health care, um, allowing men to play in women's sports, um, recognizing all of the gender all these gender dynamics that's out there, um, raising the minimum wage to like $25 an hour, um, allowing allowing all immigrants to come here without any sort of um, process for them to go through to vet them. They would still hate him nonetheless. Like I said, it's literally nothing he can do, good or bad, that won't piss them off because they just don't like him, um, irrespective of his politics. They just don't like him. So, getting back to your question, no, I don't think Maduro will hurt us in the U.S. in the long run. Right now, it's dropping gas prices because they have the largest oil reserve, like, and even the person they were going to make the interim president in Venezuela was saying they were going to have a deal that America does get to keep all their oil, and basically in return for us ensuring that they have a democratic process going on there. It seems like a win to me. Also, Venezuela was cozying up to Russia and China, and, and when he was apprehended, he was actually supposed to meet with some Chinese official. So fuck Maduro, and he terrorized his own people. There are 22 million Venezuelans displaced around the world, and they were celebrating their asses off despite what white liberals want. White liberals are the most racist people in the world. Like people always talk about redneck white people. The reason, look, black people respect redneck white people because at least if you're racist, you're letting us know right up there up front, like I don't like you niggers. All right, cool, whatever. But it's white liberals who are the most racist because they try to pretend to be your buddy as long as you, as long as they can be condescending towards you and tell you that you need help, that you're a perpetual victim. They want you keep you in perpetual victimhood to be in their good graces. If you are a conservative black person or moderate black person and you don't believe in that stuff, that you believe that you can do better in this country, that black people have it as good in this country as anyone else, then that's when the insults fly and you see white liberals be as racist as hell to black conservatives and moderates and libertarians because they only like black people that they can see as being victims so that they can play that white savior shit with them. But anyway, generic says support ICE. um, Carlos says nobody was crying when a migrant set a black woman on fire. Right. And you remember when I reported on the arena, um, what's the little cute little um, Ukrainian woman named Arena something. You know, when she was um, killed by that deranged black guy on the train, there was also some Ethiopian or Eritrean women that were also likewise killed by some deranged black dude. I think one who wanted to date one of them or something like that. And that didn't get very well reported. So I made sure to include that in my live stream when I talked about Arena as well. And another white lady. Uh it's like, but when it was like some sort of black on black crime, you didn't hear any of these liberals talking about that shit. So yeah, Carlton is right. Unusual says he shouldn't be on the streets if he's scared. I'm not sure whom you're referring to. Carlton says millions of people at ICE protests, but reparations meetings be empty. Right, exactly. And then on top of that, they have these fake Black Panthers out there going out there protesting in support of the Somalians. And so the niece of Huey Newton, the co-founder of the Black Panthers, said, "Oh no, we're not gonna have this shit. Y'all not gonna be, you know, basically running my running my uncle's name through the mud, calling yourselves the new unified Black Panthers, and you're basically you're destroying like what the Black Panthers was about. The Black Panthers would not be out there protesting on behalf of some Somalian scammers. Like, no, people, especially these same Somalians who don't even consider themselves black and will say, but we're not black. Now they're saying they're black because they're getting arrested for all the scamming they're doing and all the other and all the fuckery that they're up to. Now, some of them now are still saying they're black, but a lot of them are still saying, well, we're not black. Why are you arresting us? You guys should be going after the black people next. I'm like, they're not going to come after us next because we were first. We're not next. We were first. I'm not, and this is something these little dumbass immigrants from Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean and Asia don't get. They're not coming after Black Americans next because we were first. What happened was we fought to be here, and now we're recognized as Americans. We fought in every every war and military conflict that has happened uh, since the birth of this nation. It was a black man that was the first one to fall in the American Revolutionary War. So they're not coming after us next. They came after us first, and we proved our we we proved our worth here and shown that we are Americans. And when it comes to who's actually considered American in this country, Like, yes, you can have these ethnic minorities who come here who are more successful than the black community. But at the end of the day, when people think American, they're really only thinking white and black people. And sorry for you Asians, you Middle Easterners, and you Latinos who think otherwise. So Romilla says that Jews do 9/11. I'm not even sure what that means. Besides that, guys, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Wikipedia, these are your best friends. Y'all can look up that information. So, no, 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 Jewish people were not responsible for 9/11. We already know this has been, it's been what, 25 years now. We know who were responsible. A bunch of Saudis who were connected with, people in Afghanistan and connected to the Bin Laden family, who were at one point uh, an influential uh, family that knew the Bush family well. But in any case, whatever. No, we're not gonna start any Jewish conspiracies here, because no. David Sire 234 says, "What's 13% of the population, 80% of the problem? Your mother. Your mother's your mother's 80% of the problems because her pussy stink, and everybody know because they already hit it. That's how she was able to buy your baby crib, by taking it up the ass, because her pussy stink too much to put it in that. And they said she could suck a golf ball through a garden hose. And I'll tell you what, she did it for the love of the game. She didn't get paid for it. She did it for the love of the game, all across America, just sucking it up and taking it up the ass, the way you like to do so with your male friends, getting buck broke. How about that, David? Carlton responds to him too. He says, "David, so are you saying that every black person is causing problems in America?" We don't have to take him seriously, Carlton. Ronald says, "I'm back. Bro's a pro at ignoring the comments." I've literally answered everything Romulo was saying. Carlton says, "For you to sit back down." Oh no. He said, "Carlton, who the F are you?" He's my moderator, Romulo. That's who he is. He's holding it down for me. If you disrespect my moderators, you're disrespecting me. So Carlton says, "I'm the person about to sit you down." Carlton says, "Come back tomorrow, 24-hour ban." Yep. Wow, I don't get why he was starting beef. Like, literally, I was answering Carlton. You saw, if folks in the chat room, you saw I was literally like answering every single comment he said. Even if after they were deleted, I still have access to the deleted messages, so I could still like go in and say, okay, okay, what's this, what's this. So I still answer his questions. But guys, as I've always said, when I'm going through comments, it's going to be a delay, because that's just the reality. There's going to be a time lapse from the time that I see a comment, I respond, and I can get to the next comment. I don't understand why people don't understand that in real time you cannot answer them as soon as they pose the message, because you're already answering the prior messages. That seems like that's common sense. I don't see why people don't get that. Like, they had most people who've been on live streams in the chat room have been in other live streams before as well. So they know how it works. They know that there's going to be a time lapse in the host responding to their comments. I don't see why there's always confusion on that, except that the person is slow or autistic. So commentary connoisseur says if you're shooting, your goal is to stop the threat as fast as possible. Well, yeah, like I said, when you're taught to shoot in law enforcement and in the military, you're taught to shoot to kill, because when it gets to the point where you have to shoot, this is typically your last resort. You've already, like, it's already escalated beyond a simple um like a simple, like, the curtailing of the person's, like, violence or whatever. Like, most of the time, cops do not resort to their weapon until it is a last resort, except for women cops. Now, I will say this: if you should be more in fear of your life dealing with female cops, because female cops being physically weaker than men, they're going to be more likely to draw their weapon than a man is, because they're not going to be confident in their ability to put a to apprehend a suspect or attacker with their bare hands. So you're more likely to get shot by a female cop. So I would be more worrisome about a female cop. But again, it still comes down to compliance. If you are in compliance, more than likely they're not going to shoot you. Yes, do some things happen, but most of the time, if you are compliant, they are not going to shoot you. This is something that all black kids are taught, particularly black boys, when they reach puberty by their fathers, if they have fathers, that is, or sometimes by their mothers. They are told to comply with police and to be respectful so they can come home safely. But these little privileged feminist white liberal women think they can disrespect law enforcement officers, harass them, put hands on them, and willfully ignore um, commands by that law enforcement officer just because they don't like what they do. You don't have to like what they do. You don't have to like the officer, but you still have to obey the law. You cannot you cannot just disrespect an officer and willfully ignore their commands and think you're going to get away with it. That's for any branch of law enforcement. Like I said, local, county, state, federal, whatever. Like, no. Only with ICE do people think they can suddenly do things they wouldn't do with other police officers. He said, I'm about to call the police on you. Suck my dick. You're forever banned from this channel. And you're gonna be put on timeout for saying Breaking Bad. I don't look anything like Giancarlo Esposito. Like I said in the previous live stream, if you think I look like Giancarlo, you think I look remotely anything like Giancarlo Esposito, you're either retarded or you're racist. And either way, I don't want to talk to you. So I look nothing like Giancarlo Esposito. And like I said before, I don't have anything against how he looks. He's a fly dude for his age. He has to be like 70, at least 70 now. Because like I said, the dude's been doing movies since She's Gotta Have It, which was like Spike Lee's first movie. And She's Gotta Have It came out with like 1985 or something like that. Um, like I said, he was in a bunch of Spike Lee films. The first one being She's Gotta Have It, then School Days, when he played the president of the fraternity that that Spike Lee's character wanted to join. I look nothing like Giancarlo Esposito. So anyone who says that is just racist or retarded or both. Carlton says the Trump social experiment is working according to plan. Back in the day, everyone loved him, and now people hate him. Very strange. Yeah, like I said, it's simply because now he's a Republican. Like when he was a Democrat, he was beloved. Like he was on Oprah Winfrey. She literally told him back in the day on her show he should run for president. She literally said that Whoopi used to Whoopi talks so much trash about him on The View. They used to be good friends. She used to be good friends with the man. Like I said, they only hate him when he became Republican and when he sided with the birther theory about Obama back in the day. The whole birtherism sort of conspiracy is when Democrats started really hating him for that. And yeah, he was wrong about the birther theory, but I understand why the birther theory came out because look, first of all, let's be clear. A lot of us don't really consider people from Hawaii Americans. We really they are, but unless you're born inside the continental US, like most people don't really consider you American. That's number one. Two was yes, he did live in Indonesia for a while because when when his when his mother remarried an Indonesian man, they moved to Indonesia for a while, which is why he can speak Bahasa in Indonesia fluently. Um, when he went to Indonesia when he was still president, he talked to them in their native tongue. That gives rise to the birth of theory. And then his father was um, a Kenyan immigrant who then went back to his country and abandoned his family. So yeah, but the birth of theory was clearly false. And like I said, conspiracy theory is just like any other proposition. It's either true or it's false. Well, I don't want to say proposition. I don't want to get into legal. I don't want to. I don't. If I say propositions themselves are true or false, I'm getting into a certain theories of meaning. I'll just say any assertion is either true or false. Um, so it doesn't matter whether it's a conspiracy theory or if it's considered a legitimate theory or whatever. It's either true or false, and it just turned out the birther theory was false. But that doesn't mean that all of a sudden he was this racist person, or that he was this. Like I said, they had it out for him since 2016 because back then people didn't take his run for office seriously. Even the Republicans didn't. They thought he was a joke. Everyone just assumed that Jeb Bush was going to be the was going to be the Republican candidate because he had the Bush dynasty behind him, both his brother and his father. Big Mac Fisher says, "What are your pronouns?" I don't use pronouns. I say that gay shit for all these mentally ill people who think, and it's stupid. In what era did we ask people their pronouns? None since now. Besides that, no one talks about someone in the third person to their face. You don't call someone he or she to their face. You address them by their name or their title. You don't have to address them by their pronouns, which is retarded. When people ask me that, I'll say Batman or Ninja. And address my pronouns either Batman or Ninja because no one addresses anyone by their pronouns because we don't talk to people in the third person. Joe, what's up, Joe? He says Newsom has a shot at 2028. Yeah, he does. He he's the governor of the largest state in the country. Um, he 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 now has nationwide recognition, and he has the looks um, for a candidate. Although to me, he looks like a greasy used car salesman. But that look will appeal to a lot of people, though. Um, that goes into all that pseudoscience about looks maxing by that guy Clavacular, who claims that people will vote for. will vote Newsom into office based on his looks. Of course, I want to stress this right off the bat. Clavicular is an artistic moron. Like he's on the spectrum. I'm not saying that as a slur. He's actually on the spectrum. So he's a little retarded. Um, on top of that, his whole looks maxing that he and his followers embrace to look better, like hitting your jaw repeatedly to make it more shapely. This is dumb shit. This is pseudoscience. This is not real. Oh shit, it's late. I'm about to go, guys. Um, because my pronoun is I'm him. Carter says Newsom looks like the cartoon character Max Headroom from MTV. Yeah, he got that greasy, slick back hair, the tan face. Like he looks like a he looks like George Hamilton 2.0. If you remember George Hamilton. Carter says they're going to sell Newsom as a sex symbol to the women. Yeah, probably so. Like I said, looks alone is not going to. Clavacula is just wrong. Looks alone is not going to win you an election. It's simply not. Will it play to your favor? Yes, there is an attractiveness bias built into humans that we favor people who are more attractive than unattractive because we rate them as being more competent, confident, and healthy. And eh, what it might come down to, it might be Newsom versus JD Vance. Who knows? SS Stoner Food says thoughts on Mexicans. That's too vague of a question. Like, what do you mean thoughts on Mexico? I don't have thoughts on Mexico unless you mean something specific. You gotta make the question more specific. Like I'm sure you guys heard this back in elementary school and high school and middle school. Like when you make a question, it has to be a specific question. Thoughts on Mexico is not a real question. That's just like something that you want something to expound on. Thoughts on Mexicans eating tacos. That's still not a serious question. So anyway, I'm about to go. Peace out, guys. Take it easy, Carlton.